Welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast, real-life conversations with industry experts on modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, Laura Allen, founder of New Zealand's leading sexual wellness store and holistic sex, love, and life coach, passionately guiding women to expand their pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Hello, beautiful human. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm bringing to you again, Caitlin Cook, who is an international coach, facilitator, writer, and multidisciplinary artist working in mindfulness, self-love, sacred sexuality, and shamanic healing. And I've brought her onto the show to speak to us about consensual non-monogamy and opening your relationship, which I know is, a very controversial topic. So the first thing I want to mention before we go any further is that if you are new to this podcast or if you're listening to this episode and you haven't listened to the first part of this series, so there's 2 episodes involved in this series, and the first one I released last week, and I highly, highly, highly recommend that you listen to that first before diving into this one as we go all into what monogamy is, what consensual non-monogamy is, and all of the variables in between. And in that episode, we really lay down the foundations so that you can have a really firm understanding of what it is that you're actually looking for, what it is that you need, and so that you can actually make a really educated decision moving forward from there as to what is going to be right for you, what's going to be right for your health and happiness and that of your relationship. So moving on, this episode is going to be all about the how-tos. We really go into those initial conversations that you can have with your partner, especially if you are the one instigating it, how to sort of create spaciousness in between the decision that you make together, some of the ways that you can compromise, some of the ways that you can prepare yourselves, some of the tools and resources that you can use to educate yourself and empower yourself so that you can have a smooth transition, for lack of a better word. We also talk about what it can be like while practicing consensual non-monogamy and some of the things that come up and how to actually hold space in those moments and not disempower yourself or put yourself down for thinking or feeling that you should be more involved in this, that you should be, free and open and loving when actually you're feeling another way entirely. There is so much juice in this. Whether you are monogamous, whether you are polyamorous, it doesn't matter what type of label you have on your relationship style. I highly recommend that you listen to this episode because there is so much wisdom in here regardless that could highly, highly benefit any type of relationship that you are in. So without further ado, let's enjoy the show. Okay. So, all right, let's start moving into the hows. And, well, I know that you run workshops on this and I'm sure you've got a whole structure in place. So I feel like we'll just start from the beginning and, maybe you can just kind of run us through, the basics, first steps on how to approach this subject and we'll take it from there.
Well, I feel like, when we were talking about the gentle start, that's really good. So even just the conversation can be really huge for people in a monogamous relationship, because it depends on how your partner is feeling, right? Like maybe they're on the same page or maybe they're like, what? And they might feel like that must mean if you're interested in non-monogamy, that must mean that I'm not enough and you must need other people. And that it is often just not the case at all, especially in conscious, non-monogamy. So even just that conversation in and of itself could be huge. And I guess the first thing with that is really to feel in your body like the innocence of your sexuality and the innocence of what it is that you truly want. And not necessarily, and I guess the patience with it, like we were talking about, like starting slow. And it's not like we need to jump into the deep end immediately. Like there's no rush. And in fact, or like giving birth to a baby or something, like if you rush that, it's not going to go well. So just like spending the time, and there might be some pauses and some moments where it's like, oh, okay, I think I need to like just breathe with that one. And it might be a week I need to breathe with this one. And then we talk about it again. And then just starting slowly experimenting. One thing I'd really recommend is checking in with each other. So say, for example, your partner's excited about the idea, and you want to, I don't know, go to a party and just talk about like who we think is pretty at the party and who we like have a little crush on, and that's all and nothing else. And then you go, you do your thing, you have your little like chat with your partner and what's fun, and then just coming back home and then checking in with them and say like, so how was that for you? Like what came up? And be really honest. Like one of the things that I feel so sad about in a number of non-monogamous relationships who I witness or I'm coaching is the amount of keeping things secret because we want to be progressive, or we want to be spiritual, or we want to be evolved. And it's like, again, it's like we are exploring this non-monogamy because we want to have all of ourselves accepted, all of ourselves witnessed, all of ourselves here on the table. So why are we suddenly hiding that we're jealous right now, or that it was scary? So, so in the check-ins, just being really honest. And this can also be, so one of the things that's really beautiful about non-monogamy is the amount of intimacy that it actually builds between like partners. Because you're sharing something very, very special and very vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, you really get to see someone really naked, and there's something so beautiful about that. And there might be something that comes up and you're like, yeah, I actually felt like a bit scared, or I felt a bit jealous, or I felt a bit ashamed. And that's like, it's easy to talk about all the nice things, all the impressive things, all the stuff that makes us seem really cool and smart. And then it's actually like so raw but so beautiful to talk about those things that are so close to our heart that we don't let anyone else see. And it's those moments that we can really, like melt into each other. So this is one of the things that I think people sometimes who haven't explored non-monogamy yet, and this is again conscious non-monogamy. This isn't the case in all non-monogamous relationships, but when we're approaching it with awareness and patience and love, it can actually be this incredible experience of building intimacy, not dispersing our attention across everyone, because intimacy is into me, you see. And so it's like, you're really seeing into me now when we're in our check-in. So it's beautiful. And what I'd suggest from, that slow kind of start is, just keep exploring, keep, experimenting, and keep checking in with each other. One of the other, exercises I take clients through, is what's called, an experience design or intention design map. And basically you go through with your partner all the things that you want to think and feel in your relationship. And this is great for monogamous relationships too, or any kind of relationship. What are the things that you want to think and feel? Like, I want to feel safe. I want to feel loved. I want to think, or I know what my partner's doing right now. I'm not like wondering, like, who are they with or something. So think and feel. What do you want to say and do? Like, I'd love to go to a play party. I'd love to check in with my partner. I'd love to say I love you. Then what you want to hear. I want to hear how it was for them. I want to hear what turned them on. I want to hear what freaked them out. I want to hear that I'm loved. think and feel, say and do, hear. What's the last one? Say and do, think and feel. Yeah. I've had a blank. But there's and there's one more quadrant. I can share this little PDF with you if you like. But to go through these, I always forget one. It's so funny. Oh, see, that's it. Of course, it's like the senses. So what are the things you want to see? And so for some people it might be I want to see who you're connecting with. I want to see, I don't know, movies with you. I want to have dates with you. Anyway, so it's these 4 quadrants, and you go through with your partner, and that way it's like it's really helping you both, A, understand what it is you want, and then getting clarity about what your partner wants, because maybe both of you have this thing about trust, and there's like, it comes up in lots of different areas. It's like, oh, so we both really want to feel like we can trust each other. Okay, so let's really build that into how we do this polyamory thing. And maybe my partner talks about like they don't want to see anything about who I'm connecting with, like it just wouldn't feel good for them. And I would have no, like, I just wouldn't even think about that. So it brings some clarity and understanding. So like, okay, so this is what would help you feel good, and this is what would help me feel good, and we can, rather, because one of the worst things is assumptions. It's like the biggest, and probably true in monogamous relationships too, it's like, we assume what our partner wants. We assume, what they don't want. We assume what would make them happy, what would make them triggered, and then when it actually comes to it, it's something completely different. So it's really just bringing everything into the light so that then we can know, and knowledge is power. So, yeah. And I was talking with a friend actually a couple nights ago. One of the things is setting boundaries, which is part of this process, is and this is one of the big mistakes I made in my my first polyamorous relationships, where I just didn't realize that boundaries were a thing, and that if it was open, it meant that I had to be totally open, and you could like go home with anyone at any time, and you didn't have to tell anyone about it, and that was just like so much heartache and chaos. And so I guess what we're talking about with this slow start and this kind of thing, it's like it's a really conscious way of exploring, which also includes some things that like for example, penetrative sex. Like maybe that's a boundary, and we can play with other people, but penetrative sex is not something that feels kosher for our relationship. So yeah, like going through and definitely having really clear boundaries that both of you understand, not just one of you understand, and not necessarily things that boundaries and agreements are not necessarily things that they're helping you to stay in the growth zone and not going into the trauma zone, definitely. But they're not, the way that I like to think about them is that this is what will help me keep my heart open, rather than this is what is going to protect me from my fears. So the keeping your heart open, it's like, this is what's going to help me navigate this like new territory in the growth zone
and have fun with
it and joy and ease, rather than like feeling really heavy and overwhelmed. But also not like, like I also know, and sometimes people can set agreements like don't ask, don't tell kind of policies. And it's just because they are afraid to hear, and so that's not an empowered boundary. That's just I don't want to be confronted with the possibility. And actually it's like me putting my head in the sand, So
yeah, totally.
We can feel that difference, I think.
Yeah, there's oh my God, I've got so much coming up. I've got like a whole list of things. But yeah, I was listening to a really amazing podcast with Lewis Howes the other day, and this woman whose name I've forgotten, but I'm going to put this episode in the show notes as well. But she is like deep in the science and the data of female arousal, and the book is called Untrue, and she has all of this epic epic stats around how people in like don't ask, don't tell relationships and monogamy experience more jealousy. And you think about it and it's like, well, that actually makes sense because there's assumption in there. There's that shame in there. There's no communication, and a lack of communication invites imagination, right?
Yeah.
So if it's all in the dark, then of course you're going to have this like heightened sense of jealousy with no outlet and no communication tool to get to the bottom of it. And so, by really being able to, I guess, hold space for each other and have those check-ins so that you can go through all of the motions is the growth, is the magic, is the juice. And I love what you were saying about being honest and being honest about jealousy and like all of the things that can come up, or like any possessiveness or insecurities, like, oh, I feel like I'm not good enough, or all of that stuff, and actually being fully okay to talk about that because we are allowed to be jealous. Just because someone is practicing open monogamy doesn't mean that you are immune to all of those feelings. Like, no, it's essentially just giving you a safe container, quote unquote, to process them with someone who you love and care about deeply. Yeah. And also, just to like rewind this way back to the start, I want to kind of go over it a little bit, just that number one first step, because we talk about taking it slow and having that first initial conversation. And I think it's really important to inject in there as well, is like maybe not having any expectation on outcome. And if you are in a long-term monogamous relationship with someone who, you know, you really want to be with, it's like having the conversation and then just leaving it there, giving it time and space for the dust to settle, talking about all of the emotions and things that come up. I mean, I listened to a lot of podcasts, can't you tell? I listened to a podcast with Evian Whitney, who talks about when she was opening up her relationship with her husband, and it took them years before they even, 2 years of conversating, of researching, of talking with other people, of really learning everything about it and what they actually wanted before they even started practicing.
I think it's beautiful.
And okay, maybe it doesn't need to take you years, but I think it's about having an intention of not needing to rush into it, like you said.
Yeah.
And just, because sometimes things can be fleeting. And again, if you are in a relationship where this conversation could be really, really challenging, which, let's face it, could be, quite a big deal to talk about stuff like this. Just like giving it heaps of time and then having that conversation and just being like, look, this is just an idea. Let's just talk about it. Nothing needs to happen right now. Yeah. Nothing and it's just a conversation.
It could even be like I feel like there's sort of a certain grace and elegance that we can bring to this initial conversation. Like it might be, you don't have to go off and be like, hey, honey, I really want to sleep with other men. What do you think? It can be like, so baby, I just been feeling like, what do you think about, human sexuality? Like, do you feel what do you think about desire and how that works, and our kind of heritage of monogamy, and then how this feels in our own body, and there's different ways of kind of bringing about it, and then you can kind of start to sense how your partner feels about it. Your partner doesn't feel immediately threatened, the fight, flight, or freeze. It's like when we feel like we're in danger, we just suddenly go we're not even thinking straight at that point. We're just in this kind of panic mode, need to get safe. And so if we start to start the conversation in this really threatening way, our partner's going to immediately be panicked. So just, even that, just going slow and being curious, it's it's a huge process of exploring curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. And approaching it from that excitement of that growth mindset and something that you're doing together in your own time as a couple.
With pure authenticity, checking in.
And with things that excite you and don't make you feel, totally like
contracted.
It's going to be the end of the world. Yeah. Oh, so epic. And I think as well, it's safety is such a big thing in all of this. And you know, when we start to open up our relationship, there's sort of that sense of insecurity from that foundation of your relationship, and is it going to fall apart? Like, you know, making sure that you have those touch points and those check-ins to sort of, you know, bring that sense of safety and maintain that sense of connectedness throughout the experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it
can be like nearly like a due diligence in a way, or like relationship hygiene, like, because there can be like a lot of stuff flying around and all this like new energy and potentials, and your own inner world is like super alive. And so just having, these little moments to anchor in and connect again. And, you know, even one of the things I really love is monogamy holidays, where if I'm in an open relating time and there's a lot going on and I can feel my nervous system, it's like there's excitement and thrill and expansion and joy, but it also feels like a little bit overwhelming, and I really just want to like connect with my partner. I'm feeling kind of distant from my partner right now. We'll just have like a month where we're monogamous, you know, like we just push pause on all of our other relating, just so we can kind of like simplify. And I feel like this is the other thing. It's like, even when you are really committed in a non-monogamous relationships, you're still entitled to also like be your own designer, even in that. And there might be weeks, months that you just choose to chill out and simplify and not push yourself. And because it's like how you're feeling and like your state that matters in the relationship. And like you don't have to keep building momentum. Like you can just rest.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I'm just coming back to that constant check-in with self. Oh, and I also love how you're talking about boundaries. I want to go over that and like I want to dive into that a little bit deeper too, because again, it's having that expectation around what this should look like, where, you know, maybe actually open relating or what you're really seeking in an open relationship is touch and cuddles with other people.
Yeah. No genitals involved.
You know? No genitals involved. Perhaps, you know, or maybe you are wanting to experience a threesome, but there's a boundary around like no penetration with the other person or no oral sex with the other person. You know, and just like getting really clear on like what the actual need is, and then just like finding a way where it does feel expansive and exciting and playful for both of you. Yeah. And also like just don't be shy. Like say for example you're in a threesome and you guys have talked about like, okay, so what are the things that will help us to feel really open and big and beautiful and light in this experience rather than heavy and contracted. And it's like, yeah, cool. So I'm cool with oral sex, but penetrative penetrative sex is okay, but definitely with a condom or, you know, whatever. And then you're like going for it and you're like really enjoying it, but then something starts to feel a bit weird in your guts and you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm feeling. And then you can just say, guys, can we pause? I just need to breathe for a second. And can we just like sit and just like, or like just lie down and just cuddle for a second and then breathe and then feel and then say like, I'm feeling kind of like triggered or whatever, you know, and then whatever you need, ask for it. And then maybe you're like, cool, back on action. Let's go. Or maybe you're like, okay, I think that's actually enough for me tonight. Let's maybe connect another night or something, but let's just go and have some tea now. Like, that's okay. You don't have to follow through or in any specific way. It's like the point is
connect with what is happening, be responsive to what is happening in your body, and that is where the real ecstasy and the real joy happens.
Totally. Ah, yes. It's like, as well, as soon as you, I guess, sort of stand up for yourself in that way and say, no, I need to pause, and then that request is heard and honored, that's almost like arousing, and you're like, okay, I'm, like, I guess, like, yeah, no expectations. If you just want to go and have tea, then great, that's great too. But just like being able to practice that and to have it be respected is so amazing and like really erotic.
Totally. And it's funny because I feel like sometimes we can think it like, okay, threesome, it'll be a successful threesome if we all orgasm. No, that is not what a successful threesome is. It's like, were you present? Were you authentic? Did you really feel each other? Did you enjoy yourself? Did you allow yourself to really be seen? And it has no, like, it has no, whether you guys orgasm or not, or whether it lasted 2 minutes or 2 hours, that has no relevance. It's like, who were you? What did you experience? What did you receive? And as you say, it's like, maybe this is a moment actually for you to really feel your dignity of what you want and who you are, and to be loved in that, no matter what. And maybe that's the successful threesome. Like, I felt self-worth and I felt that I matter. Like, that's a fucking successful threesome. Whether or not you even got your panties off,
I mean, that sounds hot to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we've also just like touched on something else that's super important, and like, well, there's two aspects to it. So there's like hygiene and safe sex. And I guess this could be for people who are like wanting to like really explore polyamory, and they've got their primary partner, say, and they're interacting with somebody. At what point, do you communicate with that person? I'm in a polyamorous relationship. I have a primary partner.
Yeah.
Like, these are my agreements that I've got. We can't explore, physically until I have a, STD check from you from the doctor, and even then we still use condoms and, all of that kind of stuff. So is there sort of, I mean, I guess that's relevant in non-monogamy as well, but yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So there's a really beautiful, little framework that I got from ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts. It's called RBDSM, and it's really easy to remember. And this is what I encourage anyone and everyone, including myself, to take to new engagements with people. R stands for relationship status. So this is where you share, I am in another relationship. I'm in 7 other relationships, or whatever. And that way the person who you're connecting with knows straight off the bat, because maybe they're not interested in you being with someone else, or like for you right now, like if you met your partner and he said that he's with someone else, you'd probably be like, well, I don't know, because it's your partner and he's special, but like it might not be your jam, the open relating.
Yeah, well, on that note, I know, just to bust in, it's like, I know that I've been in situations with people where things had progressed quite intimately, and then only, sort of once it's a bit late in my mind was I told about, and to me that felt like a betrayal. And so I feel like you're doing this person who you're connecting with a disjustice by not being open and honest with them in the beginning. Yeah. That was just my 2 cents I wanted to
No, thank you for that. And it's like, this is the thing. It's like, if you're going to have sex with someone or you're going to kiss someone, it's pretty intimate. Or like even just go on a date with someone. It's like, you're, again, into me, you see. I'm not showing you a mask. I'm not showing you like, only my number ones. I'm showing you who I truly am. And that includes that I've got another partner. So it's like an integrity piece that this is what's happening. And if the person's the right person for you in this moment, in this life, they'll be like, cool, all right. Or, hey, I've got some questions, and then you can talk it through. And that way everyone is, like it's all out in the open and everyone's on board, as opposed to this, like, that's when it starts to get icky and sticky. It's, consensual. So relationship statuses are, B is boundaries. So that's where you would share like what you're available and excited to do together. So that might be like, I'm open, like I'm really keen to go home together and like kiss, but I keep my clothes on. That's my boundary, or at least for the first date or whatever. And then I, tell my partner and whatever your boundary is. So that's when you share that. BD is desire. So that's what you want. What I would love to do with you is I'd love to be on this date. I want another glass of wine. Let's go home, or let's take a walk, and then let's have another date next week. And then who knows how we might progress, It's like really sharing what it is I truly want to do. BDS is sexual history. So that's when you talk about sexual health checks. What were you tested for? What were the results? And also like with boundaries, you talk about like condom use and stuff. And meaning is that's M. Meaning's an interesting one, because maybe for you, this is a one night adventure, and that's how it's going to roll. But for the person you're on a date with, they're like keen to start something with you. So if you're not on the same page, this is where a lot of heartache can come in as well. And again, like assumptions are the devil, like they're just not good. So all of these sorts of ways of talking about things is just a way to kind of move beyond assumptions and actually move into intimacy, to this is who I am and this is what I'm really here for. So, and you can talk about that. You could talk about it kind of elegantly, like weave it in through a dinner date, or, and I would encourage that. And then certainly like when it's really getting heated and stuff, or even before then, before you're even in the bedroom, talk about, like sexual history and this kind of stuff. It's really important. It's not easy, especially if you've got, like an STI or something, like herpes or genital warts, or you have had that. It can be really like scary to share that with someone, but it's it's important, especially if there's multiple people relating, and it doesn't mean that you're dirty or you're going to give someone something, but it's just so everyone can enter in consensually with full knowledge of what's happening.
Yeah, totally. You know what? That conversation, I believe, is relevant even in monogamy if you're just dating. Having these conversations before, before like getting involved with it, like having these conversations on a first date. Like, what do you want? Yeah, that's hot. I honestly believe like all of these conversations are like the hottest thing to talk about on a first date, because that this person who you're with is like aware, and is just going to be, I don't know, it just kind of, for me personally, it just filters. It's a great filter. It is. If I'm dating someone who just like can't have these conversations, or like it's okay to feel awkward about it, but or if they're just like simply just like what the hell, it's kind of like, well, already this isn't going to work, because like this is the level that I operate in. This is the integrity that I place in my relationships and even my casual one night stand relationships. And if this is just like too like not okay for you, then we're clearly not a match in any way, shape, or form. Yeah,
I so agree.
And it's also just like super sexy to go into a sexual experience with someone knowing what your boundaries are. Like, how hot is it to put a boundary on where it's just like, I'm not going to take my knickers off tonight. Come on, that's hot. That's hot.
Yeah.
Or it's like, how hot is it to look someone in the eye and just say, I love it if you just like touch and like rim around the outside of my asshole, but I don't want any penetration. Yeah. Like, come on, that is so sexy. And then the whole time when you are in the experience with the person and, they're playing in that area, you're not in your head worrying, oh no, is he going to, put his finger at my butt, like, because you've already said no, you've already said the boundaries. So by like setting these boundaries, having these conversations actually allows for so much more freedom within your experience and within your relationships.
Yeah.
It's epic.
Yeah. It's the way to, because if you, like, again, thinking about the nervous system, when we start to get into like, oh, I don't know if I feel safe, it's like everything in our body starts to tighten. We start to either get ready to freeze, to get the hell out of there, to shut down. So by being really clear about what it is that you want and what it is that like you're not keen on, then yeah, you just get to relax and your whole nervous system goes, yum, and you just get to really melt into the experience. So yeah, it is. It's like boundaries. We need to find a sexier word for it, I think, or maybe just completely redefine it so we understand that boundaries are an incredible like sex device, you know?
Yeah, the boundaries are like the new sex toy.
Yeah,
honestly.
totally.
That's how it needs to be. It needs a whole rebrand for real.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been so epic. I feel like we should. Oh, I don't like using that word. Should. I feel like we could start wrapping it up now. I think there's one more thing I'd love to ask before we go into quickfire, and that is, okay, say I'm a newbie, I'm curious, I want to get started, I want to learn more. What are your like go-to resources for people who are, want to learn?
That's a really good question. To be honest, I mean, I've read some books. They were pretty cool. I can share. Actually, I've got some books. I can definitely share some books that could be a good start. Do you know what? I actually think meditation is so key, because there's a kind of quality of listening to yourself and releasing that comes, that no matter where you are in your exploration of non-monogamy, I feel like it's like a really important tool to have with you and a kind of base. I also feel, I've got some other resources as well, like podcast episodes and articles and things that I can share as well. But I feel like the other place that I learned the most, which is maybe like quite a commitment, but ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts, the level 1 retreat, the kinds of tools that you learn there about acknowledging authentic desire, speaking what it is that you truly want, releasing emotions that come up. We haven't talked about dealing with jealousy, like how to actually deal with that in your body. But, using breath, using sound, using movement to just release whatever it is that's in you. And also voice dialogue, where you speak to what it is that's freaking you out, whether it's like, or even this person, say your partner's met someone and you're like, oh my God, I'm so like afraid of this woman, Sarah. And so then you put Sarah on the pillow in front of you and then you start talking to her and you say whatever it is, like, I hate you. I wish that you would leave. Like, why are you messing around with our relationship? And then you swap places and you become Sarah and you talk back to yourself. And it's not a head kind of, experiment. It's embodied, and you're using emotional release tools as you go through. So I honestly, like, if you really want some like solid tools, ISTA is really good. And of course I teach this stuff too in my one-on-one sessions as well. But yeah, so I guess those books, I've got some podcast episodes, other than this one, ISTA, and then also, working together is a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, epic. Cool. I've got a little list here of stuff that we can put in the show notes, so we'll revise it later.
Nice.
For everyone who's listening. This has been so epic. Okay, to wrap it up, I've got 3 quickfire questions.
Fun.
And the first one is, how do you cultivate more pleasure in your life?
I like this. How do I cultivate more pleasure in my life? I feel like the first place it starts for me is actually listening to my heart. I feel like my mind has got a million things that it thinks it should be doing and better ways that we could be spending our time, more productive. And then actually just really listening to my heart and the simplicity of my heart, that's how I cultivate pleasure and more pleasure in my life. Yeah, which is, it's funny because it's something that I've been, exploring for some years now. But it's funny how it just goes deeper and deeper. The way that I, like, genuine, true, really my heart speaking, not my mind speaking. So yeah, that's a big one, listening to my heart.
Beautiful. And what is one of the most impactful books you've ever read?
Tantra, The Supreme Understanding by Osho.
Oh, fab. I've made a big mistake. I've actually got that on Audible, but I don't know who is narrating it, but it puts me to sleep. It's so, I can't listen to it. I'm driving, listening to that book, and I'm like, I'm about to have a car accident. Like, it's hypnotic. I need to get the hard copy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes as well for anyone who's interested. And the final question is, what's one thing you've learnt about self-love recently?
Same as question 1, listening to my heart. It's an absolute, I don't know, life feels like being a slave if I'm just listening to my mind. But when I really feel my heart, that's when I'm like, oh, that's what it feels like to be alive. That's what it feels like to be in love. That's what it feels like to be, yeah. So listening to my heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. This is epic. It's such a great episode. So yeah, thanks for being on the show. And for anyone who wants to get in touch with you and work with you, where can they find you?
So you can find me via my website, caitlincook.com, Instagram at the Caitlin Cook, and also Facebook as well. And I do also have a podcast, Mind, Sex and Spirit podcast, where we explore similar kind of topics.
Epic. And we'll link to all those in the show notes as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Laura. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. The queen of pleasure.
What a pleasure. For real. This is great. Oh, I'm in heaven. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe, or share it with someone who you feel could benefit from hearing it too. My mission is to bring healthy sexuality to the mainstream, so be sure to leave your 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, because that way this content can land in the ears of those who need it the most. If you're looking for more resources on how to live a turned-on life, check out my website at www.laura-allen.com, where you'll find events, coursework, free downloadable workbooks, as well as my coaching packages. And lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize yourself in this exquisite way, because when we do, that's when we can really start to show up for the rest of the world. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.